No, Wiley. Thank you for being here.
Ben, it is entirely my pleasure. I'm thrilled to be here.
The word is you've wanted to do this for some time, but
Long time.
You're a busy working actor.
Long-time listener, first-time caller. Here we go.
You just came over. You're shooting season 2 of The Pit as we speak when you came over.
I was wearing scrubs moments ago and gloves and performing a thoracotomy.
You picked 2 movies here for your 2 for 1. We're starting with John Huston's Fat City from 1972, and then a Richard Donner film, which I adore, and you do as well, clearly, Inside Moves from 1980.
Indeed.
First of all, before we dive in on Fat City,
Okay.
You grew up here, right?
Third generation Angelino, family in the business, grew up going up and down Hollywood Boulevard, living in movie houses.
Tell people who your grandfather is.
My stepmother's dad, my grandfather, was John Sturgis, who was a renowned director, made films like Bad Day at Black Rock, Great Escape, Magnificent Seven. He was of that generation of filmmaker, the Johns, the John Frankenheimer, John Huston, all those guys that came back from World War II.
Yeah, John Ford, yeah.
And started as cutters and then worked their way behind the camera.
So you grew up a classic movie fan, like
Totally.
So what draws you to a film like Fat City?
I've always been attracted to the sort of loser love story. The underbelly tale, whether it's like an old John Garfield movie or movies that are set during the Depression, these sort of loser love stories really appealed to me. And when they're done well, I think they can be extremely poignant. And sometimes they fall on the side of like a little polemical, they can be a little bit of propaganda, like, look at these poor downtrodden people.
Like they're preaching at you.
That's not how John Huston approaches his subject matter. He really sees a lot of dignity and a lot of humanity in these characters. He has a lot of love and respect for them, you can tell, in the way that he depicts them. And this is one of those little gems that stand out to me in his filmography because of its pace, because of the tone that he takes with it. He hadn't made a movie in America, I don't think, since The Misfits.
No, it's right, since The Misfits in 1960, so his first film in America in 12 years. And he'd been in sort of arguably a slump in the late 60s. This brought him out of it. This stands to the day he died as one of his favorite films.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Ray Stark produced this. Ray Stark says best film he ever produced, and Ray Stark made some
I think
great
it
movies.
benefits from living in Europe. I feel like it has a real European sensibility. It's almost like an Antonioni movie, and the way it begins and the way it just sort of lays these characters out. The story really is about 2 guys, 10 years apart. Stacy Keach plays a kind of down-and-out boxer who had had a professional career that was really not that great, and he meets a very young Jeff Bridges in a wide MCA and sparring, who's not a fighter, but the two of them kind of start up this unlikely friendship.
They're totally different kinds of guys.
Totally different kinds of guys. Stacy Keach is a sort of washed-up alcoholic who dreams about getting back in the limelight. Jeff Bridges is a young kid full of energy who thinks his whole life is before him, but you have this sensibility when you watch it that these guys are never going to get to the proverbial Fat City. You're watching a story about dreamers who never really make their dreams come true. And yet, in the attempt, there's a lot of beauty. And you can't talk about this movie without talking about Susan Tyrrell's performance.
Yeah.
She was nominated for an Academy Award. There's been a lot of floozy drunks at the bar depicted on film before. I'd challenge anybody to find a better one than Susan Tyrrell. The movie is based on a novel by Leonard Gardner, who also grew up in Stockton, California, so he knew his subject matter really well. He wrote the screenplay as well. All those little details that are in the movie could only come from somebody who really understood the town.
Obviously, Hollywood can do anything, and of course, this movie could have been shot in Los Angeles and with a set, and it would have looked okay, but it feels like it had to be in Stockton. And from the first scene to the very last scene of the movie, which is memorable, and we're going to talk about afterwards, like that's all, there's nothing inside in a studio. That's all in Stockton.
Agreed.
All right, let's take a look at the movie. Much more to talk about afterwards.
Great.
Here it is from 1972, directed by John Huston, Stacy Keach, Jeff Bridges, Susan Tyrrell, Fat City. Casablanca has a great ending. Citizen Kane has a great ending. A lot of great endings in movies. Godfather, this is a pretty good one. This is a top tier ending. I'm going to head home. No, stick around. Talk a while. Okay. That's it.
They're not going anywhere.
Silence. They're not going anywhere, ever. Right?
They're going to stay in Stockton.
They're going to stay in Stockton. And in that is also a little bit of like Keach's loneliness and desperation to connect with another person, right? But also Bridges still like kindness. Like he's staying, he wants to go home to it. He's not dreading going home to his wife and kids. He wants to, right?
Yeah.
But he's like, no, this guy this guy needs a little time, so I'm going to give it to him.
To me, maybe the difference between a Brando performance and a Keach performance is that sensitivity and that sort of that sense of desire for connection that belies the kind of brute boxer mentality. I found him to be so gentle in this movie, and that was really one of the qualities that's really stands
Yeah,
out.
Houston was really attracted to Keach's sensitivity. And Keach noted that. He was like, this was a guy who was not into, we don't need to talk about motivations. We don't need to talk about any of that stuff.
I think there's a lot of different kinds of directors. The ones that that come from writer schools tend to over-intellectualize because they want you to understand what the motivation for the written line was. But oftentimes that's not playable. Other school of director gives you something that's just, a haiku, but gets you exactly where you need to get to.
Would you have a preference, or does it depend on the project? And
A good haiku is worth a lot. If you don't have to over-explain it, even better. And I tend to be fairly intuitive, so directors that speak in shorthand, I respond pretty well to.
and also, I imagine if the screenplay is really good, then it's baked into the screenplay, some sort of understanding of what.
I think a
Yeah.
good, detailed explanation of where we are, what's going on right now, create the environment for me, build the sandbox, put all the stuff in it that you want, and then let the actors play.
The boxing in it is pretty good. And Houston had been an amateur boxer. He went to school, like in high school, an hour from his house, because that's where boxing was. And so they choreographed the boxing scenes. But then apparently they'd go shoot it, and Houston would say something like, "All right, boys, we're gonna get in the ring, and there'll be 2 minutes of boxing now. Just go ahead and fight."
To me, it's some of the most realistic boxing I've ever seen on film, especially Jeff Bridges' fights. They look manic and they look sloppy, and it really creates a whole verisimilitude of reality watching these guys that aren't really polished fighters kind of swing on each
I'll
other.
paraphrase. I won't even look for the quote I have written down from Bridges, but his basic quote was, "I was terrified. The blood in my eye, the blood in my nose, that's blood."
Well, I think Stacy Keach got knocked out in his last fight. I think there's a shot in the movie where he gets hit and he claimed that he blacked out after taking it.
So again, they choreographed. That's a former, you could tell, the guy he's fighting, the fighter who was urinating blood earlier, that's a real fighter, a guy named Sixto Rodriguez. And Keach said that he couldn't help it. Like, they'd choreograph it, but, he'd block stuff because that's
Instincts are instincts.
Instincts are instincts. So when Keach gets knocked down in that fight, he goes, "That's me getting knocked down." So this is your kind of movie, right? This is stripped down.
Movies like Bound for Glory or Hard Times or Emperor of the North, just small towns, small lives, big dreams, and a lot of obstacles to get there.
Yeah. Well, Fat City is, again, a remarkable movie. And the fact that Houston and Ray Stark, who produced it, they did 5 movies together, good movies together. Stark, both as a producer and as an executive. And again, they both loved it. Both thought it was among the best things they'd ever done.
His follow-up to this was Life and Times of Judge Roy Bean. He was sort of back from there.
He didn't even do all the editing on this. He went right from this into Life and Times.
Oh,
of
really?
Judge
I
Roy
didn't know
Bean.
that.
Yeah, but again, full trust in the editor, and that came out as he's in Houston again, and who could be cynical about this business. Enormously proud of this movie.
Really good Chris Christopherson song in there, too.
Very good Chris Christopherson song. Noah, thanks very much. Great stuff.
Thank you.
We have the back half of Noah's 2-for-1 double feature straight ahead. It's from 1980. John Savage and David Morse in Inside Moves.
Next on TCM, Inside Moves, then Drunken Angel, and later Crossing Delancey. Head downtown to TCM tonight.